Okay, so we're back to continue this video, and I said, hey, I'm gonna go get lunch, and then I'll be right back, and it's been, I don't know, like 8 hours since I stopped. Just, got involved in one thing, then another thing, and another thing, and another thing, but I want to get this video done before I go to bed, so let's continue. So where I left off was I was finishing with the fights, and the last fight being the Silver Eyes thing, and I went on this rant about why I fucking hate that scene. And what I was gonna do was then go was like, all right, let me start talking about the characters and kind of how they're written in season 3 and what I think of them. But the first character to talk about is RWBY. So I'm still on the Silver Eyes thing. No, I haven't been stewing on it for like 8 hours or so. Honestly, I kind of stewed about it for I don't know, maybe like 15, 20 minutes or so after I was done recording. Because I was thinking of like, what would have been a way to foreshadow the silver, because again, like, they foreshadow that the Silver Eyes are important, but not to the degree where I'm like, oh, RWBY being able to do that makes sense to me. It feels like bullshit. To me, what would have made a lot of sense is that first time she meets Ospen, which when I was talking to Clay, I don't remember what Clay said. It was something like, Ospen, you mean like Aspen or something? And I was like, yeah, so the first time she meets Aspirin. So I might end up calling him Aspirin at some point. I don't know, maybe when he possesses Oscar. So, when she first talks to Oz, and the first thing he says to her, like Crow points out, is, you have silver eyes. And then he kind of just changes the subject and says whatever the fuck he's gonna say. What if instead, excuse me, he mentions some of those old stories that Crow talks about to RWBY in like the last scene of the show, and saying like, yeah, like Miss Rose, because I think at the point they already know her names. Like, are you like do you know the significance of silver eyes? Are you aware of the stories with silver eyes? And RWBY, being RWBY, would say yes, because in Volume 1, when she talks to Blake, she's like, yeah, like, I love the old stories of heroes and people who fight for good and justice and people who help people just for the sake of it. So I feel like RWBY would be fully aware of those kinds of stories. And she was like, yeah, I am aware of the, stories of Silver Eyes, so people who could defeat a Grimm just by staring at it. Like, I think that's so cool. And as someone who has silver eyes, I was like, I know it's just a story. It's something that's like really old. It's supposed to kind of like motivate people and shit, but it worked on me. I do want to help people. I kind of want to live up to like the pedigree of having silver eyes, even if it is just a story. My mom had these eyes. I'm assuming Summer Rose had them. I she is in a picture, but no, because you don't get to see it because she's wearing a fucking hood. But I assume she had silver eyes. Like, my mom had them, and my mom was the one that used to tell me these stories. So I want, again, like, I want to live up to that. So it shows to the audience what Silver Eyes can do. Again, it's presented as a story, a children's tale, a fairy tale. So it's probably bullshit. But at the very least, that idea of you can defeat a monster by looking at it, and Silver Eyes generally like has a history or mythology to it of belonging to really fucking powerful people. Then Ospen tells Pyrrha about the maidens, and specifically is like, yeah, do you know this story? Oh yeah, I know that story. I love that story. It's not a story. Something to keep in mind, kiddo, is that if something is a story and it's something we still talk about, that means it's probably true, and there's a reason we've passed it down. He doesn't have to say anything about the silver eyes here. That has nothing to do with Pyrrha. But he is talking about how old stories are still talked about for a reason, and some viewers might kind of think back to that conversation from the first episode and go, wait a second, so if all stories and myths are true, maybe them silver eyes are like really fucking important. Then, when you get to that scene when RWBY is able to use the crazy power in her eyes and defeat a monster just by looking at it and stop Cinder essentially just by looking at her, it's maybe still a bit too strong, but at the very least, I as a viewer go, okay, the eyes being able to essentially have a super move is something that was not only mentioned literally in the first episode, but there's also an episode in season 3 that talks about how stories mean something. Meaning, I think you said like twice in 3 words, that's not very good. But it's like, I also know that the stories in this world are true, so the fact that it turns out that this story is true does not just feel like bullshit. It's like, no, this has now been established. This all leads up to that, which makes it feel a lot more satisfying rather than, oh, Ruby's in a really shitty situation and we need to get her out of it. She has the Renengon, I guess. And that's what I have to say about that. I'm now done with that. So let's move into the cast, starting with Ruby Rose herself. So I don't have to say anything about the Silver Eyes anymore. We're done with it. What I can say is, A, this season continues, focusing on her just, I want to help people, and when I come up with a plan, I'm just gonna fucking do it. Aspects of her character, which I really like. Again, like the very Symphogear-esque scene fits that very well. And the fact that when she finds out that, oh, Pyrrha and John still haven't come back, I'm gonna go take care of that because I am their friend, and if I have the capacity to help my friends, I'm gonna fucking do it. And I do like how Weiss is like, hey, you're not doing it, we're doing it, we're a team, let's go. The other thing about Ruby's character that I really like here is her relationship with her family. The season starts with her at her mom's grave and talking to her like, hey mom, like, let me talk to you about like what's going on in school, some of the shit we've done, my new friends, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, finally, like now we are finally getting some payoff from the Red trailer. So I think that's good. We do get to see her interact with her Uncle Crow, and I think it's really adorable. I think it's fucking precious. Her relationship with Yang, I don't feel like there's really a lot of sisterly interaction here, but like the little bit there's fine, but like it's already established how close she is to her sister. And while you don't get to see her dad for very much, again, you get the sense that like they are very close. They are a very tight-knit family. I think it's very sweet. Which, moving on into Weiss, we also get more insight into Weiss's relationship with her family. Number one, her dad keeps calling her, and she ignores every one of his calls, to the point where he gets so mad, he like cuts off her funding, and then she can't pay with the credit card anymore. It's like, you son of a bitch. I'm still not gonna answer your calls, which I guess I gotta respect it. But you also see Weiss's relationship with her sister, Winter, which again just kind of makes me go, you're named after a season. Are you gonna be a maiden later? Like, I don't know. I might be a little on the nose, but it also makes sense, I suppose. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on you, Miss Schnee, Miss Weiss's sister. But she does have a very good relationship with her sister. You know, at first it comes across as sister is very strict, doesn't really care about her. It is like, you need to uphold the Schnee name. I giggle every time I say Schnee again. Like, I say it every fucking time. It sounds like a fucking Dr. Seuss thing, but I can't help it. It really fucking does. But it's like, you have to uphold our name, blah, 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 blah. And Weiss just... It is really kind of adorable seeing Weiss kind of geek out over her sister. Like, Winter's here? Oh, I'm so happy. I get to go see her. I'm going to go hang out with her and blah, 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 blah. And then you have to go back into being a noble and like, yes, sister, it's an honor to see you. I won't besmirch the family name and shit. I actually kind of like that. And then as the conversation goes on, it becomes very, it's like, no, sis, I'm really fucking happy to see you too. I am here on business. I probably can't spend as much time with you as I want to or as you want to, but I will make time as much as I can. I am really proud of you. And another aspect of the character is focusing on summoning, where it's something that Winter brings up. It's like, this is a Schnee thing. You need to make sure you can do it. Weiss tries for a little bit. It doesn't go super well, but as the camera pans, it's like, she kind of gets it. And then in the season finale, she's able to do it effectively. And like I said, given Weiss's her habit of jobbing, her deciding to start with a new, focus on a new fighting style makes sense. And it's not like she just says, cool, I'm gonna stop what I do and only do this. I don't know. I don't really remember how it goes in later seasons. Is it just, she just does the summoning shit, she does not use her rapier, she doesn't use glyphs and shit anymore? Or if it's kind of 50-50. But the idea of Weiss isn't really pulling her weight. Or at least, I mean, I think she works really well as a support. But when she's like, I have to take on somebody in like a 2v2 or a 1v1 situation, I expect her to lose. So the idea of her saying, I need something else in my arsenal, makes sense to me. Something to kind of beef her up in combat. So I actually kind of like what they do with Weiss. With Blake, for me, Blake doesn't really do a whole lot in this season. Again, it's like she was the star of season 2. In this one, she's kind of chilling. But there's 2 scenes that stick out that I really like. Well, one of them I love. The other, I'm like, I will kind of see how this goes more in season 4. Is when Yang is caught in that genjutsu and breaks Mercury's leg. And she's like, guys, like, I know what you all saw, but this is what I saw. Please believe me. And Ruby's like, you're my fucking sister. Of course I believe you. And Weiss is like, I know you're a fucking meathead, but you're not a bad person. You would not just attack a defenseless person while they're down. I believe you. Blake, I want to believe you. What the fuck does that mean? It's like, this is your friend, your teammate, your specific teammate. What do you mean you want to believe her? What the fuck is stopping you? What's stopping me is nothing to do with Yang specifically. But I've known someone that I was very close to, that I trusted, that changed. And the change was gradual, but it was noticeable. First they were a little more, I don't remember exactly what she says. It was like, at first it was this thing, which I could justify. Then there was this thing, which I could ignore. And then as it kept going, he kept getting worse and worse and worse. And not only do I hate the fact that I watch someone I care about become a monster, not only does that feel familiar to what this is, or what this could be, but I feel like maybe I could have stopped it. Like, if I acted or said something in the early stages, maybe some of the shit that happened later could have been avoided. And I didn't. I don't think she says that, but it's kind of the vibe that I got from it. It's like, I've got this guilt from here. So, Yang, I need you to do me a solid. I need you to look me in the eye, stare into the fucking windows of my soul, and tell me I can trust you. That it wasn't that, what you saw was real. This is what I saw happen. Okay. I believe you. And I really like that scene. Then, when she sees Adam, she pretty much just freezes. And, I mean, I think it actually does make... on the one hand, there's a part of me that's like, okay, with, how dedicated Blake was in Season 2 to, I guess that's kind of the thing. On the one hand, I'm like, I understand how probably traumatic that is. It's like, I'm seeing someone I care about, and now they're doing all this shit, and specifically calling me out. I don't really know how to respond to this. But on the other hand, I'm like, with how personal the White Fang was in season 2 and the very end of season 1, I was like, it's like they're on site for Blake. Like, the White Fang are involved. I need to take care of this right fucking now because this is all my fault. Yet, when the White Fang shows up in the form of Adam, who is also someone she knows, and while she has her problems with him now, she doesn't trust him, she thinks he went too far, it doesn't seem like there was anything he did to Blake. It's not like he stabbed her in the back or like slapped her across the face or something, and then she's like, okay, you've now hurt me, I have to leave. So she would see Adam and be like, oh no, like my abuser is here, my enemy is here. That would make a lot of sense. But it's, oh shit, it's my ex. And for her to just kind of completely freeze like that, I'm like, I don't know what I think. And I mean, she is able to get out of there, and she's able to get Yang out of there, and at the end of this season, it's like, what happened with you? Oh, Blake just left. She dipped. The meme of the dude going peace and disappearing. Like, yeah, that's it. And we don't even get a scene of that. Like, after Ruby uses the ultimate solar flare, no, I mean, I think you get a slight scene of Blake, but you don't really see her, like, doing anything. It's just like, oh yeah, Blake left. Oh. Okay. Sure, dog. And then with Weiss at the end, it's like, no, she went back with her family. It's more specifically that her dad came to pick her up and wouldn't take no for an answer. But it's also like she has to go back to her family and like work some shit out. I'm looking forward to seeing how that happens in season 4. I'm definitely looking forward to Blake. It's like, okay, you left. Why did you leave? What are you trying? Because if I remember correctly, it's like because Yang loses her hand. Get to in a fucking second. Blake feels responsible for it, and if I remember correctly, it's like it's essentially her running away. I mean, literally, she's running away again, but she's running away from dealing with Yang. It's like, this was my fault, and I kind of don't want to deal with this anymore, and it's like, I feel super guilty, so I'm gonna go. I don't remember if it was also, I still need to deal with Adam and the White Fang, but I can't get other people involved because this is the kind of shit that happens, or if it was, I'm just gonna leave and not deal with shit, but then the White Fang at it, because I remember she still deals with, like, other Faunus doing shit in the WF, so I don't remember exactly how it goes in Volume 4. It's been a long time since I watched it, but anyways, that's what happens with Blake. I think there's this great scene, and then not as sure, and then there's Yang, who is, I don't know if I would say she feels like the main character of this season the way that Blake does. It's kind of almost, but I still feel like RWBY gets a strong enough amount that I can still say it's her. But Blake gets the shit where she becomes villainized for hurting Mercury, which she did, but he also kind of didn't do. There's her relationship with her family, which again, like, her relationship with RWBY has always been good. Her relationship with Crow is very similar to the one that she has with RWBY, and that RWBY has with Crow. They're very tight. But you do get a little more of the stuff with her mom, which, like I said in the last video, the end credit scene of season 2 is her talking to her meeting Raven, and Raven saying, like, we have a lot to talk about, Yang. And then in this season, it's like, oh, actually, they, like, didn't have that talk. I think that's shitty. I think that's stupid. But Crow is able to pass on a message. She's like, yeah, like, that's my sister. We're not, like, super duper close, but we still keep in touch. Like, we're still family. She left me a message for you, kiddo. She saved your life. Don't expect her to do it again. Which I actually really like. It's like, look, like, you're my flesh and blood, I'm gonna save you, but I can't always be there for you. You need to make sure you toughen up. And it's pretty funny and fucked up that, like, Yang's next major encounter with someone, it's like, all right, mom's not gonna save me anymore. I just need to be strong enough to take care of myself, but I also kind of need to be strong enough to, like, meet my mom and, you know, not have to rely on her, and maybe we can do shit. Okay, my friend is like, her crazy ex-boyfriend is over there. I gotta protect her from her crazy ex-boyfriend, and just immediately fucking loses. It's kind of funny. Now, we don't really get to see how she reacts to losing her hand. Or I think we just, it kind of gets cut off and then it cuts to someone else. We get a tiny bit at the end of the season of her with her. I think at that point she already has a new hand. It's a metal hand. Maybe it wasn't yet, because I know she gets a metal hand. Maybe at this point it wasn't there yet, and I'm misremembering, because I think it actually is a little bit before she does get the metal hand in Volume 4. But anyways, her hand is fucking missing. And she's moping, which fully fucking justified. I mean, she's all right now. That's really fucking shitty. But it is pretty interesting to me that, like, there's a scene where she's kind of thinking, it's like, all right, with the shit that happened, people think I'm a monster, and I'm not. I'm now disqualified from the tournament. My whole team is disqualified for the tournament. You know, I brought dishonor upon my family and shit. But I have to stay strong. I have to keep moving forward. And by the end of the season, like only a few episodes later, she is unable to. And I think that's kind of interesting. From what I remember, it's kind of a while in season 4 before they like really start focusing on Yang and before she's able to get back on her feet. But when RWBY talks to her at the end, because RWBY's like, look, I gotta go do shit. I know, like, Uncle Crow said he's going to Haven because that's where, like, plot is happening now. I gotta go. That's the person I am. One, I want to be able to help people, and if that's where the bad guys are, and I saw what they did here, I need to help the people of Haven. And two, whenever a plan comes to mind, I gotta go fucking do it. Are you in, sis? And you're like, no, I don't want to fucking go. I don't want to do shit. I just need to be here and be left alone for a while. I mean, it's definitely not the most pleasant of endings, but I feel like it does make sense in context. We'll see how it's handled in the later seasons. We move on to Team Juniper. I fucking love John in this season because he actually feels like the leader of his team. You get it in that fight where he's actually able to be like, okay, let me start coming up with strategies. Let me figure out like our positioning, who should do what, etc., etc. And I like that. But also after Oz is like, hi, Miss Nikos. So here's the thing. Maidens exist, and you're probably the most maiden-ready person at this school. So let's do a soul transplant. If you're cool with it, I'll give you some time to think. And Pyrrha's like, oh my fucking god. My worldview is now entirely shattered. Well, part of it is like my worldview is shattered because I'm learning about like the existence of magic, which, again, I don't want to go into all that again. But it's also, I guess I'm going to talk about Pyrrha, which I was going to talk about her after John. But they're very, very fucking linked in this season where Pyrrha's like, okay, I've always believed that I was destined for something great. That I would be this great warrior, that there'd be like, I would be protecting shit, protecting people, protecting peace and everything. And I'm correct. Because Oz wants me to protect, you know, this great power and keep it from falling into evil's hands, but if I do, I don't know what that does to me. Because they specifically tell Pyrrha, they're like, okay, this is how the power transfer is supposed to go, but through some bullshit that we don't even know, which you see it, I believe it's like in the next episode. So we see how Cinder did it, and it's like, okay, she took a Grimm, and the Grimm was able to take the power, and like, you know, for power that powerful and important, you can just kind of suck it out with a little spider dude. I'm assuming it's something that like Salem specifically like procured for this purpose, so it probably makes sense, but you're also like, that's easier than I thought it would be, but okay. But anyways, it's like, yeah, she was able to take some of the power, but not all of it. We want to, like, this maiden is now basically fucked. She's dying. She's not at full power. We don't want them to just come in and finish the job and get the rest. So we want to transfer her power into you, which is essentially a soul transplant. And we're going to be dead ass. We don't know what the fuck is going to happen. It could work 1000% where it's like you are still you, and now you've got cool magic. Maybe her soul will kind of override yours, and it's your body, and maybe because of that, the semblance is still there. I don't know. But it's the power is now safe in you with you as the vessel. Or maybe the two souls will like reject each other. Maybe they'll kind of fuse. Maybe they'll get slightly eroded as they come to. We don't fucking know. But okay, I guess the dogs need to come in. I'm gonna pause real quick and then I'll continue. Okay, so like we don't fucking know what's gonna happen as a result of the soul transplant. No pressure if you don't want to do this. We do kind of need this though, so give us an answer as soon as you can. And Pure being like, okay, so I knew I was destined for greatness and to protect shit and be a good warrior and everything, and I now have the opportunity to do so. Didn't think it was gonna fucking happen like this. I don't want to say yes because I am sincerely terrified of what is going to happen to me. But I don't feel like I can say no because this is what I think I was meant to do. And John has the emotional intelligence to be able to tell something is wrong with my friend and something is bothering her. The two sit down, they talk for a bit. At one point, he starts holding her hand, and you're like, okay, is this just like, hey, the two of us are friends. I'm holding your hand to let you know, like, I'm here for you and I've got your back, and like she's resting her head on his shoulder and shit, and it's adorable. Be like, okay, so is that a I'm here for you and you're my friend kind of holding the hand? Is that a coincidentally I feel like he at this point is intelligent enough to kind of do that on purpose, but like is that a hey kind of thing? And honestly, I kind of think it is. I think at that point he's like, look, the white ship has sailed. I fully understand that she's not interested in me, and I'm not really I've kind of moved on. Pyrrha's a really good friend of mine, and we have a very strong relationship. And maybe this is the kind of like faux confidence kicking in, but I think she's kind of into me, and man, I'd be an idiot to not go for a woman as great as her. I think I kind of like her. And I think that's him just kind of letting her know. It's like, look, like, I'm here for you as your friend 100%. But if you want to make it official, like, I ain't gonna say no, dog. Like, it's kind of what I get from it. And I honestly really do like, and you can make an argument that it's like, well, that's actually the exact, like, hey, if your friend is going through something, that's probably not a good time to fucking hit on them. Fair. Fair. But fair. Especially giving Pyrrha's reaction, which is essentially like, oh my god, you could not have picked a worse time. It's like, I was like, I needed this. I needed my friend's support. But with the shit you are saying to me, and the fact that I feel like now we're kind of becoming a thing, right as I might not be myself anymore. Yickety yikes, Johnny boy. I actually really like it. I find it super endearing and I find it super interesting. And I just feel really, really bad for her. And then she fucking dies. It, like, that's rough. Like, that's rough, buddy. Like, 100%. And I really like their last few scenes together where John's like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. But I know Pyrrha needs me for something. It's like she needs me here for moral support or to, like, guard her while she's vulnerable during a soul transfer. What the fuck are we talking about? Okay, you need me to guard the door. I will guard the fucking door. I will do whatever I can. And then when Cinder and Oz start fighting and they got to get the fuck out, he's like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to get you out of here because you're my friend and, like, you're super important and shit. And she's like, John, I can't go with you. I know that I need to stay here and fight because that thing, because now Cinder's full autumn, is like, that's a fucking problem for everybody. And if I'm here, that means I can do something about it, which means I gotta. And I don't want you here as well because, like, I think you're gonna get in my way. It's like, I hate to be that asshole, but I can't fight her and protect you. And you've gotten better, you've gotten a lot stronger, but that is out of your league. That's probably out of my league. I'm about to find out. But I can't escape with you. And there is a part of me that thinks it's really funny that John's girlfriend ends up shoving him into a locker. It's like, hey, you know, that thing that Carden did to him in season 1 as, like, a prank and a joke ends up coming back and having, like, severe emotional consequences. Again, foreshadowing and shit. It's like, that actually works really well, but it's like right before she does it, she kisses him, and like, boy, I know that's gonna fuck with John afterwards. And again, like I said in season 2, I love the genuine friendship he has with Ruby, that they can call each other and be like, dude, I need your help with something. Because he immediately calls her up, and it's like, you need to... Actually, no, I take that back, because he calls Weiss. He calls Weiss instead of Ruby. I actually don't like that. I feel like it would have made more sense if he called Ruby. But at least he calls someone, and he's like, Pyrrha is not okay. Please go fucking save her. Like, okay, John, what the fuck are you talking about? Me and Ruby are here to save both of you. I don't matter. Please save her life. She's about to go deal with some shit that she probably has no business dealing with. Save my friend. And they don't. It's like... boy, season 4 is going to be nothing but rainbows and sunshine. And it's one of the... because, like, again, like I've said, my understanding is that people really don't like season 4. And I know it's the first season without Monty. And I wonder why. Like, is it because, like, the art style is different? Is it because they feel like the writing is really bad? Is it because the fights aren't as good? I'll find out when I rewatch it. Maybe I'll really like season 4. I don't know. But it does make me wonder if part of it is because of the, like, significant tonal change, which is important because after something like season 3, there needs to be a tonal change. Or maybe kind of the problem is there should be this tonal change, but it doesn't feel like it really has. Like, I'm really looking forward to figuring out, like, what goes wrong here, if anything actually does. But, hashtag poor boy and hashtag poor girl for John and Pyrrha. And then there's also Nora and Ren, who don't really do anything this season. Though Nora does have this one line talking about, like, how badass the team is. She's like, I can bench 5 of me. And, like, I got a laugh out of that. Cinder, Emerald, I keep wanting to call her Emily. Whoops. Because I just write M because Emerald is like that's way faster than writing Emerald. And I just think of M as Emily because of my Survivor notes. And Mercury. Yeah, it's like, what's the plan? Like I said, they're here to cause chaos because that gets the Grimm in. It fucks with the system, which is what they want to do. Although we don't really know why specifically. Like, I remember, like, they're working for Salem. It's like, we have a big boss who has her own whatever plan. But it's like, we've got shit that we're doing. I think what I just really like is how efficient and deadly they are. definitely deadly in Cinder's case where she fucking killed Pyrrha. But it's like, yeah, you can make an argument that maybe the plan is working a little too well. Again, with someone who's lived as long as Osmond has, he probably should have been able to stop, I don't know, some of this. But I'm just gonna kind of give the villains the benefit here and be like, yeah, was just really good planning, very efficient, very deadly, good shit all around. As characters, I think they're fine. I don't hate them by any means. I don't love them by any means. I think they're all right. And then Torchwick and Neo, fucking rip Torchwick. I don't want to say I'm more sad that we lost Torchwick than the fact that we lost Pyrrha, but there's another part of me that's like, I kind of am, given just how fucking entertaining he is. It's like I've said, it's like he steals the show every time he's on screen. You're like, I'm not gonna get that anymore. And I know it's a bit before I get to see Neapolitan just kick ass and talk shit without saying anything. And that sucks. It's like they don't get enough screen time. They don't get a lot of screen time, but they always make the most of it. Then we get Adam. So my first problem with Adam is I don't know how old he is, because he's clearly Blake's ex, and he's always like, "Ah, Blake, my love," and blah 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 blah. So it's very clear that they were a thing. Maybe it was just one-sided, but I always kind of felt like, no, this was a mutual relationship. And like, but Blake is, my understanding is like she's of high school age. She's like 16, 17. Yeah, because they say Ruby is in Beacon 2 years early, and they specifically point out that she's 15 in either season 2 or season 3. So I assume her first year party members are all 17. How old is Adam? Like, is it she's 17 and then he's like 19? Or is he like 22? Or is he like 30? I don't know, because I feel like with his design, I mean, you don't really get to see his face, but like with his build and shit, I'm like, and the fact that like he's the leader of this big organization, I just kind of assume he's like mid to late 20s. Which, if that's true, I don't know about that age dynamic. I'm like, kind of weirds me out there. And then there's his voice, which I've said before, and it's like, I don't want to be like super mean talking about a dude's voice, but it's so like high pitched and nasally that I can't say it. I feel like he's gonna tell me there's 493 Pokemon before he goes down with me. Fuck damn it. That scene from Class of 09 lives in my head rent free. And if I had a nickel for every time I ended up referencing Class of 09 in a RWBY video, I'd have 2 nickels. I didn't think I'd have one. But here we fucking are, man. But yeah, I have to give Adam credit for, I mean, so on the one hand, I was right about to say, like, I gotta give him credit for the way he, like, completely fucked up Yang, but I'm also, like, I mean, I've talked about how Yang jobs, so maybe that's not the most impressive thing in the world. But, I mean, like, hey, he showed up, and he did a really fucking meaningful act that took a character out of commission physically, and I know for a while does it to her mentally and emotionally. I have to give him credit for doing that. I don't really like the character, but he made his presence count for something. And that is good. That is important. Sun, he really doesn't do much in this season. Penny, she kind of doesn't do much in this season either. She has a very impactful death with how that, like, really causes a lot of shit to happen, but aside from that, she doesn't do much. I still like Penny, I still like Sun, but they're not like, man, you guys really did a lot of it. It's just like, yeah, like Sun had like this one fight, and I don't even think it was that good. Now I have to talk about Crow for a bit. So before I say anything about Crow, I do have to shout out his relationship with his family that I really, really like. I love his friendship with Ruby and his friendship with Yang, and how he's their uncle first, but he is a huntsman second. And you do get that sense of, like I've talked about that line a few times where it's like, they do give out medals for second place. They're called silver. And like, I think it's really funny. But I do like that he is trying to say, it's like, look, you guys ain't as hot shit as you think you are. You did not stop that train. The Grimm made it into the city. They caused property damage. They hurt people. No idea if anyone died or not. But it's like, a lot of damage was done. And if you were better, you could have stopped it. You mitigated the damages, but you didn't even do by yourself. Other people showed up to help. You're not failures, but you didn't succeed either. Don't get too ahead of yourself. Don't get too big for your britches. That's important. I do like that a lot. The reason I don't like Crow, though, the words I wrote in my notes were Mufasa's little stooge. And then after I wrote that down, my brain just started like reciting the rest of that fucking scene from The Lion King, which I will not do. But he feels like he's Osmond's little stooge. He feels like he's Osmond's major dodo. It seems like every line out of his mouth, unless it's dealing with his family, is just, this is what Oz says we should do, so I'm gonna do it. You're disagreeing with Oz? Oh my goodness, why are you so stupid? Why are you so ungrateful? And it's like, on the one hand, I'm like, I want to really respect and appreciate the loyalty that he's showing. But on the other, I'm like, does Osmond have like his hand up your ass or something? Like, are you his puppet? It's kind of insane. I don't really find that very interesting overall. I find it annoying. Because that's what I really, really like about Ironwood. You have someone who's like, look, Osmond is a very smart man. He's done a lot for the world. He's done a lot for me. I've trusted him for a long time. But do his methods really work? Has he lost his touch? I feel like it's fair to question that. And, you can say, like, maybe I don't really trust him then if I'm willing to doubt him this much, but, excuse me, he's like, my loyalty is not to Oz. My loyalty is to the people. My goal is not to make Ozpin feel that he's secure or that his plans are working. My goal is to make sure that people are safe. But with Crow, it feels like his loyalty is to Oz first and not to the people. Like, it's still to the people. He's still a huntsman, but even then, I think he says this, and if he doesn't, it's the vibe that I get is, my job as a huntsman is not to just help people. My job as a huntsman is to be Oz's eyes and ears out in the field. The shit that I do and the jobs I do, I'm not just doing, like, to help people. I'm doing it for him, which does have, like, he is doing this to help people and all that kind of shit. It's not like I'm disregarding that, but to me, it gives the sense that I'm loyal to Oz first and everyone else second. And as I'm watching the seasons, I'm like, but why? Like, I don't really see or understand what's so great about him. Like, it feels like with Dumbledore, because I have to compare it to Dumbledore, there's this great mystique and this regality to Dumbledore. And the way people talk about him, which a lot of people talk about Oz this way too, but it feels like even people that don't know him personally and aren't in his inner circle hype Dumbledore up so much. And the fact that most of the villain plots don't really get going until he's gone. That's when they can do their end games. Here, they literally, like, Cinder is doing her end game under Oz's nose. It's kind of fucking sad. Or, I mean, I think another great example is All Might from My Hero. We, the audience, know how fucking cool All Might is because we hear it all the time. He is that great hero. He is the number one hero. For I am here. And yeah, I fucking love All Might. And then at the end of season 1, we get to see him do shit. And he's not at 100%, and that's been made clear throughout the season. There's a reason he's looking for a successor. He can't do this forever. He can barely fucking do this now. But you still get to see him kick ass. Your plan is not going to succeed while I am here. And then, again in season 3, using the last of his fucking power, he makes sure that All For One, AFO, not the other way around, that All For One cannot succeed because All Might is here. With Ozpin, no, it's Cinder still fucking succeeding. It's Ozpin being there literally changed nothing. Again, his whole plan is, I'm just kind of gonna wait. It's I don't want to I don't want to overcommit to the scouts, and I don't want to fall for the feint. So I'm just kind of gonna let this simmer until I need to do something. And I mean, I guess from a chess perspective, again, maybe in later seasons, he's no, my plan is still working. Beacon is an acceptable loss. Vale is an acceptable loss, from a chessboard. We're going to get to the king and queen eventually. But this is this is losing a pawn, or this is losing a knight. I'd rather not, but it is what it is. I don't know. But I'm this, it doesn't feel like he lives up to his own in-series hype, which even then is only the people who really know him hype him up. The masses kinda don't. Team RWBY didn't even trust him enough with the information they got from Torchwick and the White Fang rallies. So Crow's blind fucking devotion, I don't find very endearing in this case. Whereas with Ironwood, who's I want to help the people so much, and this is what I believe will work. And him and Ozpin actually talking about it, I really like those conversations. I think they're interesting. I think there is kind of some nuance in there. And then Crow's shut up, James, you don't know shit, blah, 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 blah. And it's, the more he talks, the more I'm just kind of thinking shut the fuck up, Crow. I think he's played well, but I'm this dude is so fucking annoying. The fact that, again, the fight with Winter is really cool. The fact that the fight starts because Crow is drunk and is hey, you guys are doing this because you don't trust Ozpin. Fuck you. Shut up. I don't know what I'm going to think of him in later seasons. I don't know if he gets better. I don't know if he gets worse. I don't know if he's the same. Maybe, having his sister to bounce off of will work. We'll see, but, I like his relationship with his nieces. And I think his weapon's pretty cool. Not even pretty cool. It's a cool sword that turns into a scythe. Yeah, I kind of fuck with that, but I just don't really like him. And I've talked about Oz and Ironwood here. I talked to basically anything else I was going to say I said in the last video. So now I can just move on to the Jank stuff. Crow. I already said that. My questions with the maidens and the magic system, I talked about that. Like I said, it makes sense that they would pick Yang and Weiss from the perspective of our win con and our support character. I just think it's really fucking funny that they picked the two kind of weakest members overall. The ones with the worst win-loss record, but it's not really Jank because it still kind of makes sense. I mentioned okay, first off, the fact that they're Team Sun with SSSN instead of Team Season. I think that's a little jank, and I thought the fight was kind of shitty. Well earned. No, like, those three just sat there, did not start ganging up on Sun, waited for Neptune to show up, and none of them tried to stop him or move. That was not well earned. I think that one was bad writing. I'm going to be completely honest. I've mentioned Adam's voice. Torchwick dying, it's not jank. I just don't like it because I like Torchwood. I've never seen Torchwood. I've only seen a couple episodes, but I like Torchwick. And I talked a lot about the Silver Eyes power and why I think it's super bullshit and do not like the way it was executed. So with all that said, let me talk about some of the fun shit in Volume 3, because even though it ends on a really sad note in story, there is some shit that is still pretty fun. Like I said, Nora being like, I can bench 5 of me. I got a kick out of that. And again, in the middle of that fight, them just, because it's not just let's strategize in the middle of the fight. Like, they're actively talking about, like, wait, why is that the name of our combo move? Why isn't it this? Well, this doesn't make any sense. I really got a kick out of that conversation. And while I'm on the subject of Juniper, there's this one scene where Ren, I think, like, he's making this, like, kale or, like, seaweed fucking drink for Pyrrha to, like, give her power and shit. And, like, that's pretty funny. But I love the apron he wears, which instead of saying, like, kiss the cook, it just says, please do nothing to the cook. I actually was, like, grinning when I read that. I was like, that's pretty funny. I really liked that one. Again, like, the whole, it's well earned. I don't think it was, but what you said was stupid. I laughed pretty hard at that. They do when they're called Silver. I do think the line's really funny. What the fuck does that even say? I have something written down for Mercury. What does that say? It's like Psy. Oh, okay, sorry. I said Mercury, but my head was thinking of Neptune, and I had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. The fact that Mercury's a fucking cyborg, and he has, like, these mechanical legs, I actually think that's sick as hell. That's pretty fucking cool. There's this one interaction that I really thought was funny, where Penny wins her fight with her party member. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, like this actual line. I might have. And she talks to Ruby after. Ruby's like, yo, Penny, good shit. Always happy to see my friend do well. Blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, hey, your friend over there, does she know you're a robot? No, she doesn't. She thinks I'm a normal girl. Also, Penny mentioned, she's like, yeah, I've been able to hide the fact I'm a robot really well. Although the other day there was this questionable situation with a magnet, but I was able to play it off. You're like, oh, you're able to play off that one. There's going to be another issue with a magnet later. Again, foreshadowing that I think really worked. But Ruby's like, so, like, what can you tell me about your friend? He's like, well, she's a lot like Blake if Blake was forced to hang out with you. Oh. So Weiss. I laughed at that. It's like, again, like, I think Ruby can be really funny when she has, like, those really quick quips, especially when there are things that she kind of mutters, like, yeah, magnets are cool too, I guess. Like, oh, so Weiss. Like, I enjoy those. I have to mention, again, the fact that Velvet has a British accent, and British Bunny just activates my neurons. I just kind of fucking love it. The please do nothing to the cook apron that I fucking love. I mentioned this earlier. I really, really like that Ruby grabbed one of Penny's knives. I don't think she really does anything with it in later seasons. Maybe she does, like maybe when they get to Atlas, she kind of makes it a point that like this is a keepsake of a friend of mine and I keep it with me. I just think it's one of those things like I just think is really neat. It's very heartwarming. And again, it's like she didn't have Crescent Rose on her at the time, so like I gotta find something. It's like my friend just died, and I'm gonna use her weapon. I want to have a keepsake of her because she's important to me, and I want to keep that memory alive. I really fuck with that. And of course, the fucking airship hopping, like that's my favorite scene in season 3, no fucking question. The fucking elevator magnet, the scenes with Pyrrha and John, I really, really like in season 3. And the reveal at the end of the season, not the fact that Crow's a bird, although that is just like, oh, that's cool, I guess. I guess that's his... Actually, no, because I think in season 3... This was season 3, maybe. I think in season 4, they mentioned his semblance is, like, something with luck. Like, he, like, can give people bad luck or some shit. That sounds familiar. So, again, it's like, it's not a semblance, it's magic. But, yeah, turning into a bird is whatever. The reveal at the end of the season that the narrator... who was only in, like, the first episode, I don't think we heard the narrator since, maybe in, like, World of Remnant, is the main antagonist. That's just really fucking cool to me. Like, I dig that. I dig that a lot. And this is not really a fun thing. It's not at all a fun thing. But it is something I feel like I can appreciate. Is that during the end credits of the season, I believe it is the last song that plays is called Cold. And my understanding is it sounds like it's sung from the perspective of John mourning Pyrrha's death. And kind of dealing with that and the fact that, like, like, even though, like, you're gone, your star is still in the sky, and because of that, like, I'm not going to say goodbye. But in a meta sense, and again, Monty died during production. I don't know if this song was something that was already written, or if it was written after his passing. But it does play during the credits when they make their tribute to him. And again, like, the fact that, like, it's something that makes a lot of sense in universe, but it works in reality too. Like, it really just does feel like this is a tribute to this song feels like this was written for the creator, for the director of the show. Because everyone who worked on this show seems like they really loved him and that they're going to fucking miss him. And I feel like it's not a very long song, but I do think it's a very sweet tribute. It's a very touching tribute. And again, I also feel like the extended version of Let's Just Live from Volume 4 definitely has a moment where I'm like, that, it makes sense in context of the show. This part right here feels like this was written as a tribute to Monty. And I like that a lot. So overall, was this video longer than the volume itself? I don't think so. I think volume 3 is like 3 hours total. And I'm like 2:15-ish. I think I'm longer than volume 1. I don't think I'm longer than volume 2. But now that I've reached the end, like, really talking about all the things, overall, I have a lot of problems with Volume 3, clearly. Or even if it's, like, it's not a long list, the things I don't like really bother me. But I genuinely feel like the things I like outweigh the bad by a substantial margin. The first half of the season is very much like, well, there's some fights that I don't think are that good. I really don't care for Crow, and this whole maiden shit, it's fine, but it's making me ask a lot of questions, and I don't know how well this, like, if this magic system actually works super well. But then you get the second half, because there's still some cool, fun shit in the first half, and then the second half is like, okay, we're gonna have a really fucking cool climax, and it just gets cooler as it goes, man. I'm like, I was just smiling. I was just grinning at the end of the show. Like, dude, a major fucking character died. A couple major characters died. Fuck, we lost Torchwick too. So it's like, I shouldn't be grinning, but I'm like, even the way Torchwick dies though is fucking funny. And like, Pyrrha dying is sad, but fuck, it's a cool scene. And I do like the way it happens. With like, there's a part where she's talking to John, and he's like, like, do you believe in destiny? And they have a conversation about it, and those are her last words. She says it to Cinder. Do you believe in destiny? Yeah, I do. And then just like kills her. Like, fuck, like, for a girl who's manipulating fire, that was kind of cold as ice. And of course, I can't think of, I hear, do you believe in destiny? And then my brain hears, running away from destiny, like from fucking Digimon Tamers, which is also a damn masterpiece. But, I think season 3 is really good. I think even with its problems, its strengths are such that it is the strongest of the first 3 volumes. I think, again, the red trailer is still my favorite thing to come out of RWBY to this point. But in terms of the volumes, Monty saved his best for last. And I sincerely wish he could have done more. I would have loved to see what the creator of the show had in store. But unfortunately, that's not what I'm going to get going forward. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get. I don't know how much I am going to like it. But I am really looking forward. I mean, I might end up eating those words. I don't know. But I am really looking forward to seeing what is next for RWBY. Both, the character and the show as a whole. And I don't know if I will start Volume 4 tomorrow. I'm hoping I will. But, I mean, here's to the rest of the show, I guess.